Today I am reading from the eighth book in the Left Behind series. I am reading a book called The Mark, The Beast Rules the World. And today I'll be reading chapter 5. And I'll begin to read now. Buck settled on the white Hummer, confirmed it had a full tank, checked the tires, found the keys, checked the engine, and fired it up. "What shall we name her?" Chloe said. "This is a big old muscle car," he said. "It's got Chloe written all over it." It would be hours before dark, and they would be in touch with Zeke frequently to discover what he knew about the positioning of the GC stakeout. They were looking for rebels who gassed up at his dad's station, not expecting Zeke Jr. to even be there. But could Buck get him out of there without their seeing? Kenny was down for a nap, and Leah was reading when they returned. "Tyson said you could join him and James," she said, "and Chloe was going to involve me in the co-op stuff." "I've got to start communicating with everyone," Chloe said, setting up her computer as Leah pulled up a chair. Buck moved up one floor to Tyson's hideaway. What a spot he had set up for himself. In a room just big enough for a U-shaped desk, Tyson had what amounted to a cockpit, where he was within arm's length of whatever he needed. With his computer before him and his commentaries and Bible on a ledge above, he was ready. Buck was struck by how few books he had brought with him, but Dr. Ben Judah explained that most of what he needed had been scanned onto his massive hard drive. James sat in a comfortable chair, looking less than comfortable. He had been hurt worse than Buck in the plane crash, yet he sat weeping tears of apparent joy as Tyson rushed to teach him. "Much of this you have heard from your youth, Chaim," the rabbi said, "but now that God has opened your eyes and you know Jesus is the Messiah, you will be amazed at how it all comes together for you and makes sense." Chaim rocked and wept and nodded. "I see," he said over and over. "I see." Buck sat transfixed, hearing in a gush much of what he had learned over the past 3+ years from Tyson's daily cyber messages. At times, the rabbi himself would be overcome and have to stop and exult. "Chaim, you don't know how we prayed for you again and again, that God would open your eyes. Do you need a break, my brother?" Chaim shook his head but held up a hand, trying to make himself understood despite the wire-shut jaw. "God is opening my eyes to so many things," he managed. "Cameron, come close. I must ask you something." Buck looked at Tyson, who nodded, and he pulled his chair closer to Chaim's. "I always wondered why you had not come to Nikolai's first meeting with his new leadership team at the United Nations, remember?" "Of course. Forgive me for spitting on you, Cameron, but I cannot speak another way just now. Don't give it a second thought. I could not fathom it, the privilege of a lifetime, the opportunity no self-respecting journalist could miss. You were invited. I invited you. You said you would come, and yet you did not. It was the talk of New York. You were demoted because of it. Why? Why did you not come?" "I was there, Chaim." "No one saw you there?" Nikolai was disappointed, enraged. "Everyone asked about you. Your boss, what was his name?" "Steve Plank." Mr. Plank could not believe it. Hattie Durham was there. You were the one who introduced her to Carpathia, and yet you were not there when she expected you. "I was there, Chaim. I was there too, Cameron. Your place at the table was empty." Buck was about to say again that he was there, but he suddenly realized what was happening and why Chaim would bring this up again after so long. "Your eyes truly are being opened, aren't they, Chaim?" The old man put a quivering hand on Buck's knee. "I could not understand it. It made no sense. Jonathan Stonigal had embarrassed Nikolai by going after you. Nikolai shamed him into committing suicide, and he killed Joshua Todd Cawthorn in the process." Buck wanted to say he had seen it and that was not the way it had happened, but he waited. "None of it made sense," Rosenzweig whined. "None of it. But the eyes don't lie. Stonigal grabbed the gun from the security guard, shot himself and his colleague with him." No, Chaim, Buck whispered. The eyes don't lie, but the Antichrist does. Rosenzweig began to shiver until his whole body shook. He pressed his hands against his tender face to stop the quivering of his lips. Why were you not there, Cameron? Why would I not have been there, sir? What could have kept me away? I can't imagine. Neither could I. Then why? Why? Buck did not respond. He had quit trying to convince the old man. I was assigned to be there. My boss expected me to go. Yes, yes. It was the mother of all cover stories for the largest circulation magazine in history. It was the apex of my career. Would I have thrown that away? Rosenzweig shook his head, tears falling, hands trembling. You would not. Of course I wouldn't. Who would? Maybe you had come to believe Nikolai was Antichrist and you didn't want to be exposed to him. By then I knew, yes, or I thought I did. I would not have gone in there without the protection of God. And you did not have it? I had it. And so why not go? You would have been the only one there with God's hand upon you. Buck merely nodded. Rosenzweig's eyes cleared, and it appeared he was studying something 1,000 miles away. His pupils darted back and forth. You were there. Yes, I was. You were there, weren't you, Cameron? I was, sir. And you saw it all. I saw everything. But you did not see what the rest of us saw. I saw what really happened. I saw the truth. Chaim's hands fluttered beside his head, and through clenched teeth he described what he had once seen and what he now saw anew. Nikolai. Nikolai murdered those men. He made Stonegill kneel before him, stuck the weapon in the man's ear, and killed the both of them with one shot. That's what happened. But Nikolai told us what we had seen, told us what we would remember, and our perception became our reality. Chaim turned around and knelt, resting his fragile head in his hands, elbows on the seat of his chair. Oh God, he prayed, open my eyes. Help me to always see the truth, your truth. Don't let me be led by a madman, deceived by a liar. Thank you, Jehovah God. Slowly he stood and embraced Buck, then turned to face Tyson. Truly, Nikolai is Antichrist, he said. He must be stopped. I want to do whatever I have to do. Tyson smiled ruefully. May I remind you that you already tried? I certainly did, but not for the reasons I would try today. If you think you know the depths of the depravity of that man, Tyson said, wait till we get to what he has in mind for God's chosen people. Chaim sat and reached for a pad of paper. Skip to that, Tyson, please. In due time, my friend, just a few thousand more years to go. Despite his pain, David was rested. He could have used more, but he had slept the sleep of the drugged, and his mind at least felt refreshed. Unfortunately, that made it hard for him to separate his dread over Annie from his weariness over the indwelt Carpathia. He had been in the presence of evil many times, but never in the company of Satan himself. He breathed a prayer for Annie, thanks for Nurse Pale for Tyson, who had taught him that Satan, though more powerful than any human, was no match for the Lord God. He is not omniscient, omniscient, Tyson had taught, not omnipresent, deceiving, persuasive, controlling, beguiling, possessive, oppressive, yes, but greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They're waiting for you, Sandra told him. Apparently, the risen potentate did not want you to miss a thing. Well, good then. And with your arrival, I leave. And that's good too. Long day. You and me both. Feeling all right? Heard you took a tumble. Better. Good night, Dr. Hasid. And oh, yes, he is risen. David stared at her and was struck by the plainness of her forehead compared to that of the beautiful dark sister he had just met. He is risen indeed, he said, meaning just what he said. He knocked and entered and was dazed, when not only Carpathia and Fortunato stood, but all the other managers too. My beloved David, Carpathia began, how good that you were up to joining us. Thank you, David said as intelligence director Jim Hickman pushed out a chair for him. Yes, Hickman said, how good it is. He beamed, peeking at Carpathia as if to see whether he had pleased the boss. The potent pursed his lips and squinted, ignoring Hickman. To David it appeared purposeful. Hickman was Fortunato's choice, and Carpathia had scarcely hidden his opinion of the man as a buffoon. The team of 24 plus Nikolai and Leon sat around a huge mahogany table in Nikolai's office, the first time David had been there for this size of a meeting. David felt a dark foreboding as he sat and was shaken to see a well-worn Bible on the table in front of Nikolai. Everyone else sat when David did, but Carpathia remained standing. The man seemed energized, his breath coming quickly in great grasps that whistled through his teeth. It was as if he was a football player caged in a locker room before kickoff of a championship game. Gentlemen and ladies, he began, I have a new lease on life. The room exploded with laughter, and when it waned, Nikolai was still laughing. Trust me, there is nothing like waking from the dead. The others nodded and smiled. David was aware of Security Chief Walter Moon's gaze, so he offered a cursory nod. Oh, I was dead. People lest anyone wonder. They shook their heads. Mr. Fortunato, we should publish photographs from the autopsy, the coroner's report, the rising itself. There will always be skeptics, but anyone who was there knows the truth. We know, several said. David felt evil emanating so pervasively from Carpathia that he sat rigid and worried he might faint. Suddenly, Nikolai faced him. Director Hasid, you were there? I was, sir. You had a good view? Perfect, sir. You saw me rise from the dead? I'll never deny it. Carpathia chuckled warmly. He strode to his desk and stood behind the huge stuffed and leather chair. He caressed it, then massaged it deeply. It is as if I am seeing this for the first time, he said to 24 pairs of admiring eyes. Leon, what is directly above my office? Why, nothing, sir. We are on 18, the top floor. No utility room or elevator maintenance area? Nothing, sir. I want more room, Leon. Are you taking notes? Yes, sir. What do you have so far? Autopsy photos, coroner's report, the rising, and the expansion of my office. I want it twice as high, with a transparent ceiling that exposes me to the heavens. Consider it done, Excellency. How soon? Carpathia said. Who would know that? Fortunato pointed at the construction director, who waved a tentative hand. Yes, sir, Nikolai pressed. And may I assume this would be top priority? You bet your life, the man said, and Carpathia nearly collapsed in laughter. Let me tell you something, Director. I know you must displace me for a few days because of the mess it will be to raise the ceiling, but I want this done as fast as humanly possible, and do you know why? I have an idea, sir. Do you? The man nodded. By all means, let us hear it. Because I don't believe you are human anymore, and you could do it faster than my team on its best day. Only God bestows such wisdom, Director. I believe I am in his presence, Potent. Nikolai smiled. I believe you are too. He turned and gestured to all. When I lay there dead for 3 days, my spirit was so strong and powerful that I knew my time would come. When death had enjoyed victory over me long enough, I willed myself to live again. I raised myself, people. I raised myself back to life. A murmur filled the room as the men and women approved aloud and pressed their hands together as if praying to him or worshiping him. Nikolai picked up the Bible in what seemed to David a loving manner. You may wonder what this is doing here, he said. He opened it and let it plop spine first on the table. This is a playbook of those who oppose me. This is a holy book of those who do not recognize me and who will not despite what they saw with their own eyes. He slammed a fist onto the book. This holds the lies about the chosen people of God and the supreme lie that there is one above me. His team, save one, murmured disapproval. Carpathia stood back from the end of the table and folded his arms, legs spread. We shall use this very blueprint to bring them to their knees. The Jews who worship their coming Messiah in their own holy land, in their beloved city where they deign slay me, I shall return there triumphant, and they will have one opportunity to repent and see the light. And the Judahites who believe Messiah already came and went, who believes Jesus is their Savior, and whom I see nowhere, do you also trace their heritage to Jerusalem? If they want to see the true and living God, let them journey there, for this is where I shall soon be. If the sacred temple is the residence of the Most High God, then the Most High God shall reside there, high on the throne. In the city where they slew me, they shall see me high and lifted up. Many directors raise fists of victory and encouragement. Now, some plans. As I have left no doubt in any thinking person's mind about who I am, I no longer feel the need for a buffer between my team and me. While my dear comrade, Supreme Commander Leon Fortunato, has ably assisted me since first I came to power, I have need of him now in another crucial role, one he has already accepted with enthusiasm. What was once nobly attempted and ultimately failed shall now be consummated in success and victory. The Enigma Babylon One World Faith failed because, despite its lofty goal of unifying the world's religion, it worshipped no God but itself. It was devoted to unity, yet that was never achieved. Its God was nebulous and impersonal. But with Leon Fortunato as most high revered father of Carpathianism, the devout of the world finally have a personal God whose might and power and glory have been demonstrated in the raising of himself from the dead. Many applauded, and Carpathia motioned to Leon to rise and speak, as he himself backed away but remained standing. I am deeply humbled by this assignment, Leon said, moving to Nikolai, dropping to his knees and kissing the potent's hands. He rose and moved back to the head of the table. Let me clarify, not that His Excellency needs any help from a mere mortal, that the very name of the new religion was my idea. It was no stroke of brilliance. What else we shall call a faith in which the object of our worship is His Excellency? The outpouring of emotion from the citizens this very day spurred the idea that we should reproduce the image of His Excellency, the great statue, and erect it in all the major cities throughout the world. Plans have already been sent out, and each city is required to have the image constructed. They will be only a quarter of the size of the original, which, as you know, is 4 times life size. It doesn't take a scientist to figure out then that the replicas will be exactly life size. While our beloved potent lay dead, he imbued me with power to call fire from the sky to kill those who would oppose him. He blessed me with the power to give speech to the statue so we could hear his own heart. This confirmed in me the desire to serve him as my God for the rest of my days. And I shall do that for as long as Nikolai Carpathia gives me breath. Thank you, my beloved servant, Nikolai said as Leon said. Now, blessed comrades, I have written assignments for one and all. These were prepared just before my demise, and now will make more sense than ever to you. First, one of my oldest and dearest friends, a woman closer to me than a relative, shall explain something to you. Miss Ivans, if you would come. Viv Ivans, prim and proper, her blue-gray hair piled atop her head, made her way to the head of the table and embraced Nikolai. As she passed out file folders with each director's name inscribed on them, Nikolai said, "Many of you know that Miss Ivans helped raise me. Indeed, for many years I believe she was my aunt. We were that close. She has been working on a project that will help me put in place certain unfortunately necessary controls on this citizenry. My people are devoted to me. We know that. Many who were not or who were undecided are now decidedly with us, and you will agree for good reason. But there are those factions, primarily the 2 that I have already mentioned, who are not loyal. Perhaps now they have seen the error of their ways and will henceforth be loyal. If so, they will have no trouble with the safeguards I feel must be initiated. I am asking those loyal to the global community, specifically to me and to the United Faith, to willingly wear a mark of loyalty. Walter Moon stood. Sir, I beg of you, allow me to be the first to bear your mark. Let us not get ahead of ourselves, brother, Nikolai said. You may just get your wish, and while I am touched by your sentiment, how do you know that I will not brand you with an iron like a head of cattle? Moon spread his hands on the table and bowed his head. As you, my lord, are my witness, I would endure it and bear it with endless pride. My, Nikolai said. If Director Moon's sentiment is shared by the populace, we shall need no enforcement measures, shall we? David peeked at his packet and fanned the pages until his eyes fell on a startling word. Guillotines, he said aloud before he could stop himself. Now, we are ahead of ourselves, Nikolai said. Needless to say, such would be a last resort, and I pray it will never be needed. I would gladly offer my head, Moon rhapsodized, if I should be so foolish as to deny my lord. Nikolai turned to David. You are responsible for technical purchasing, correct? David nodded. I do not imagine we have an adequate supply of immediate response mechanisms for the reluctant. We must study the expected need and be prepared. As I have said, my loftiest dream is that no one would refuse the loyalty mark. Miss Ivins, please. The first page of your folder, she began, in a precise and articulate tone with a hint of her native Romanian dialect. Long before you reach the guillotines, she paused for the chuckling in which David did not join, is a listing of the 10 world regions and corresponding number. It is the product of a mathematical equation that identifies those regions and their relationships to His Excellency the Potent. The loyalty mark, which I shall explain in detail, shall begin with these numbers, thus identifying the home region of every citizen. The subsequent number embedded on a biochip inserted under the skin will further identify the person to the point where everyone shall be unique. Suddenly, as if in a trance, Leon rose and began to speak. Every man, woman, and child, regardless of their station in life, shall receive this mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. Those who neglect to get the mark when it is made available will now not be allowed to buy or sell until such time as they receive it. Those who overtly refuse shall be put to death, and every marked loyal citizen shall be deputized with the right and the responsibility to report such a one. The mark shall consist of the name of His Excellency or the prescribed number. With that, Leon dropped heavily into his chair. Viv Ivins smiled benevolently and said, Why, thank you, Reverend, which caused all, including Leon, to laugh. David was afraid his crashing heart and shaking hands would make him conspicuous. What if someone got the bright idea to apply the mark to the inner circle that very night? He might be in heaven before Annie knew he was dead. We have settled on the technology, Biff continued. The miniature biochip with the suffix numbers embedded in it can be inserted as painlessly as a vaccination in a matter of seconds. Citizens may choose either location, and visible will be a thin half-inch scar, and to its immediate left in 6-point black ink, impossible to remove under penalty of law, the number that designates the home region of the individual. That number may be included in the embedded chip should the person prefer that one of the variations of the name of the potent appear on their flesh. Variations, someone asked. Yes, most, we assume, will prefer the understated numbers next to their thin scar, but they may also choose from the small initials, no bigger than the numbers NJC. The first or last name may be used, including one version of Nikolai that would virtually cover the left side of the forehead. For the most loyal, Nikolai said with a grin. Someone like, oh, say, Director Hickman, for instance. Hickman blushed but called out, sign me up, Viv. The beauty of the embedded chip is twofold, she continued. First, it leaves the visible evidence of loyalty to the potent, and second, it serves as a method of payment and receipting for buying and selling. Eye-level scanners will allow customers and merchants to merely pass by and be billed on receipted. Several whistles of admiration sounded. David's head throbbed. He raised his hand. Director Hasid, Viv said, what are you looking at in the way of timing? Worried that your head won't take any more invasion just now, she said, smiling. I had an IV in the hand, too. Not to worry, she said. While the potent and the former Supreme Commander see value in employees serving as examples to the world, you will have 30 days, beginning tomorrow, to fulfill your obligation. I'll do it tonight, someone said, and I'm not even Hickman. A month, David thought, a month to get out of Dodge. What would become of him and Annie and Mac and Abdullah and Hannah Palemoon? Viv said that over the next few days she would be sure each director knew his or her part in the rollout of images of Carpathia and the application of the mark of loyalty. Meanwhile, she said, His Excellency has a closing comment. Thank you, Viv, Nikolai said. Allow me to tell you just one story of a family I met today. And you know I met thousands. We have such a nucleus of loyal citizenry. This was a beautiful, loyal Asian family named Wong. David fought to maintain his composure. Their daughter already works for us at Buffer in Brussels. The parents are well-to-do and great supporters of the global community. The father was quite proud of his family and of his record of loyalty. But I was most impressed with the 17-year-old son, Chang. Here is a boy who, according to his father, loves me and everything about the world as we see it today. He wants nothing more than to work for me here at the palace. And though he has another year of high school, would rather bring his talents our way. And such talents. I would arrange for the completion of his schooling here because he is a genius. He can program any computer, analyze and fix any procedural or operational or systems problem. And this is not just a proud father talking. He showed me documents, grades, letters of recommendation. This kind of boy is our future, and our future has never looked brighter. That boy, David thought, would die before he took the mark. And that is the end of chapter 5. Next, I'll be reading chapter 6. Thank you for joining me and have a wonderful day.